Bai Yan, who travels through the eternal world, opens the Unparalleled Fortune system. Introduction is weak, please refer to the main text. Keywords of the novel. 1. Read Eternal Unmatched pop-up window, 1. Read Eternal Unmatched TXT complete collection download, 1. Read Eternal Unmatched latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Bai Yan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Bai Yan asking if there is reincarnation in the world, perhaps only those who die will know. In the blink of an eye, Bai Yan, who was originally trapped in post-death chaos, actually came back to life. Where is this? Bai Yan murmured, his mind flashing with Qingming and remembering many things. I, a disciple of the Lingxi sect, worship at Xiaochun mountain, with 8 levels of condensed qi. I am located in the suburbs outside Donglin city. Bai Yan's eyes were wide open, and he took a cold breath. This is the jurisdiction of Lingxi sect, a sect located downstream of the Tongtian River's eastern vein, which means this is the world depicted in the novel Eternal Thoughts. After sorting out the lingering memories, he finally confirmed his conjecture. As a disciple of the Lingxi sect, I have never heard of the character Bai Xiaochun in the past, so the plot has not yet begun. Bai Yan shook his head, pondering 3 times before deciding to complete the sect mission first. This trip is to hunt down an evil cultivator from Tu village. The opponent's cultivation level is about 5 levels of gas condensation, and he has forced them into the mountains and forests. With Bai Yan's current cultivation level of 8 levels of gas condensation, he can directly crush them. As expected, soon after, he easily killed the opponent. At this moment, Bai Yan suddenly felt a blur in front of him, and several lines of big words appeared. Unparalleled System of Transportation, Host. Bai Yan, Lucky Value. 10 points Cultivation. 8th Floor of Condensed Gas Realm Technique. Purple Qi Riding Cauldron Technique, this is the system, I'm going to rise. Bai Yan was overjoyed and wished he could roar through the mountains and forests. What's the use of this lucky value, haven't you seen them all? Bai Yan, who couldn't figure out the system's function for a while, decided to return to the sect first. He would still have a great interest in the Lingxi sect in this world. Everything in my memory always feels unreal, what I see with my own eyes now is true. Lingxi sect is not far from Donglin city, and it only takes 3 days at his speed to arrive. Looking at the towering mountains on the south bank, Bai Yan's heart trembled for no reason. Lingxi sect, I'm here. With a mentality of not revealing his wealth, Bai Yan returned to his usual reserved and stern demeanor and returned to his residence. With a thought, the system interface reappeared. He tried to communicate with the spirit of the system, but did not receive a response. It took several hours to study the system, but still yielded no results. What's the use of lucky values? Without any prompts, he couldn't figure out the function of the system. The only thing he knew was that he had killed an evil cultivator before the system was activated. I guess the way to gain luck is through killing, but killing is not so easy. Evil cultivators can easily say that it is a cancer, and everyone should be punished if they get it. However, ordinary people cannot touch it. After all, there are unwritten rules in the cultivation world, and indiscriminate killing can attract righteous cultivators to surround and suppress. At present, everything is still going with the flow, waiting for the completion of the mountain range and the turmoil to rise. Are you afraid that without the enemy's leader, we will not succeed? Habitually flipping through the martial arts secret book, Purple Qi Riding Cauldron Technique, Bai Yan sat cross-legged and began to luck. As the spiritual energy entered the body and circulated for several weeks, he slowly guided them into the inner elixir field. There was a vast expanse of mist, and the spiritual energy was quickly absorbed in the blink of an eye. For some unknown reason, Bai Yan felt that his practice was particularly smooth, gradually entering a deeper level of meditation with his breath. The spiritual energy around him is constantly being sucked into his body to refine and return to breath, and his cultivation of condensing the 8th layer of qi is also gradually loosening. The next morning, Bai Yan opened his eyes and felt refreshed, feeling the breath in his abdomen. It turned out to be 9 layers of condensed qi. It's not common for him to enter a state of seclusion and meditation. Since entering the practice, he has only encountered a few opportunities by chance. He never expected to enter the realm of emptiness and vastness again last night. It's really good luck, Yundao. Is it not because of the system? Bai Yan clicked on the system interface, and as expected, the lucky value had already cleared to 0. Is that how lucky values are used? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Breakthrough in Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Breakthrough in Realm. Li Qingho, the head of Xiaochun Mountain, is renowned as a pharmacist in the Lingxi sect. His disciples are mostly composed of medicinal children, among whom Zhou Xinqi is the most outstanding and can be considered a legitimate heir. As for the other disciples, they are mostly mediocre and inactive, let alone mediocre. Although Bai Yan is also a disciple of the Xiaochun Mountain sect of this generation, due to his inexplicable talent in medicine, he was displeased by Marquis Li Qingho and was scolded in front of him. As soon as Bai Yan thought of the other person's expression of hating iron for not making steel, he felt his scalp tingling. I haven't seen his old man for a while, so he probably talks about me a lot on weekdays. After careful consideration for a moment, he decided not to go out to avoid being caught and accused of not doing his job properly. After all, those who are passionate about eliminating demons and defending the way have always been the reckless men of the law enforcement hall. When will it be the turn of disciples like Xiaochun Mountain who have been immersed in the medicine jar all day? Do you not see any other disciples of Xiaochun Mountain? Apart from fishing on weekdays, they are not just making medicine or refining pills at other times. Even the protagonist Bai Xiaochun cannot avoid vulgarity. Perhaps because of this, Bai Yan, who often goes out, is regarded as an outsider and gradually moves away from the circle of disciples of Xiaochun Mountain, with almost no presence in the original work. I feel like my foundation is a bit unstable as I advance to the 9th level condensed gas realm this time. Let's take some time to stabilize it first. I found a reason for myself. Bai Yan closed the door and didn't hear anything outside the window. But something that even he couldn't believe had happened, but in just 15 minutes, he was finally settled again. The golden crow returns to its nest, the jade rabbit rises eastward, and time passes by suddenly. Later that night, when Bai Yan woke up, he was surprised to find that he seemed to have accidentally broken through again. 10 levels of condensed gas environment. Be good, when did my talent become so terrifying? This is the 10th level of the condensed qi realm, and it is estimated that less than 5 of the Tianjiao disciples on both sides of the north and south have reached this level, indicating its rarity. Upon careful consideration, it seemed as if he had once again entered the realm of vastness during his seclusion. He couldn't help but wake up and indeed break through the realm again. Bai Yan is confused. Is this not enlightenment? Open the system interface and take a look. Unparalleled System of Transportation, Host. Bai Yan, Lucky Value Point 100 Points Cultivation. Level 10 of Condensed Gas Realm, Satisfactory, Technique. Purple Qi Riding Cauldron Technique. How can the Lucky Value Point 100 system be used for credit? Bai Yan's face showed surprise, and then his expression became excited. Isn't that saying that I can continue to consume lucky value for cultivation? It's just unclear how much luck the system owes and how long it can help him cultivate. Bai Yan didn't think much, so he sat back excitedly and began to use the purple qi riding cauldron technique. Due to the consumption of luck, he quickly regained his composure. A white light appeared, bright and transparent everywhere, giving Bai Yan a feeling of sitting and lying high in the sky, and his heart's direction was smooth. This is the realm of the ethereal world, which is rare for practitioners to encounter in their lifetime. However, during this period, the consumption rate of lucky points also increased significantly. Strangely, a black mist that was difficult for ordinary people to distinguish constantly emerged from Bai Yan's body, which quickly enveloped the entire cave and dispersed to the outside world. A few Lingshan trees outside the cave came into contact with the black mist, and their leaves withered immediately. Even the cheerful chirping forest birds on the branches became drowsy under the attack of the black mist, their eyes swaying in circles, and they accidentally grabbed the air and fell to the ground. Moreover, under the invasion of eerie black mist, all living beings within a radius of 100 meters of Bai Yan cave were affected. Without exception, they all become listless and unlucky. For example, a family of ground squirrels who used to play in the mountains were accidentally spotted by an eagle in the sky. The eagle pounced and accidentally jumped into the bushes, getting stuck. The hamster family, who hurriedly fled for their lives, all fell into the Tongtian River when crossing the stream, with no bones left. At noon, the Huizaofang passed by Bai Yan's cave to deliver food to the elder who built the foundation on the mountain. Surprisingly, he stumbled on a flat road and cursed as he descended the mountain again. Afterwards, another elder who passed by the White Yan cave with an imperial sword unexpectedly lost control of his spiritual energy and fell directly onto the mountaintop. Fortunately, the foundation building cultivator had rough skin and thick flesh, so he had no worries about his life. This kind of thing will not be repeated, but Bai Yan, who was in the closed cave, knew nothing about it. The next day, Bai Yan woke up from his practice and realized that his martial arts skills had skyrocketed, and his understanding of the techniques had become more profound. With one hand lifting, his spiritual power was formed, purple Qi Hua Ding. With a tremendous force, it smashed towards the nearby rocky mountain, and as expected, with a loud bang, it left a trail of powder on the ground. Stains. Even the foundation building cultivator wouldn't feel good after being hit like this. Of course, all of this can be attributed to the assistance of the system, and the role of luck is crucial. In fact, if it weren't for the system issuing a warning that the credit limit for the lucky value was full, he wouldn't be willing to leave the level no matter what. At present, the system interface has turned red, and his luck value has plummeted to -1000, causing him to furrow his brows. It seems that earning lucky points is urgent. In order not to delay his cultivation, he walked towards the direction of the law enforcement hall as soon as he left. On the way, he met many fellow disciples of Shangyun Mountain, but Bai Yan had no intention of showing off and collected his powerful aura early on. However, what he didn't know was that along the way, his whole body was constantly emitting a strange black aura. Wherever he passed, his senior brothers and sisters stopped and watched, their eyes full of dullness. The scenes of spraining and falling on the flat ground frequently appeared, and what was even more outrageous was a handsome man practicing martial arts nearby. Suddenly, he spat out reverse blood like being struck by lightning, almost becoming possessed by the demon. He was quickly carried away by nearby disciples, leaving Bai Yan dumbfounded. This is too unlucky, is it because of me? Bai Yan was amazed by the stains and walked away with a suspicious expression on his face. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Footprints of the Demon Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Footprints of the Demon Sect. The task issued by the Law Enforcement Hall consists of 4 levels. Heaven, Earth, Xian, and Huang. The difficulty of the heavenly level task is the highest, and it cannot be taken by the Supreme Elder during the non-alchemy period. The yellow level has the lowest difficulty and there is almost no possibility of combat, usually managed by lower-level disciples from external sections. As a high-level member of the condensed Qi realm, Bai Yan has full strength to challenge mysterious level tasks. For example, infiltrating, undercover, assassination, these life-threatening tasks. And the task taken by Bai Yan is to kill all the disciples of the Blood Creek sect who have infiltrated the Luochen Mountains one by one. The Luochen Mountains are adjacent to the eastern Linzhou, adjacent to the Blood Creek sect, and under the jurisdiction of the Lingxi sect. However, Lingxi sect and Xueshi sect have always had a strained relationship and often had private conflicts. As the border area between the two sects, the Luochen Mountains have always been a mix of good and bad, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are harboring dirt and dirt. Lingxi sect makes good use of this place as a testing ground and training ground for its disciples, often sending new students from external or internal sects into it. At the same time, Lingxi sect is also vigilant against Blood Creek sect to prevent the infiltration of other forces into their territory. Could it be that the Chen family has secretly contacted the Blood Creek sect at this time? The Luo Chen family is sandwiched between two major immortal cultivation sects, trembling and obediently developing for many years. Now, they choose to live no longer with grievances and plan to rebel against the Lingxi sect. It is not difficult to see from the original work that although the Luo Chen family is pitiful, in this world where strength is paramount, betrayal is not forgiven by the strong. The infiltrator must die, the villain must die even more. Bai Yan, whose strength has greatly increased, is worried about not having any luck value. Isn't this just a free gift? 5 days later, Luochen Mountain Villa. Bai Yan is hiding on a mountain several miles away from here. After all, a cultivator is not like an ordinary person, and his perception is very abnormal. In order not to expose himself, he can only cat from a distance. If the guess is good, then it's better to choose to wait for the rabbit instead of searching for the devil's trail all over the mountains and fields. For 7 consecutive days, the Luochen Mountain Villa remained very calm, until that day when a group of people drove out. Is this a caravan going out for procurement? Although the cultivation family can be self-sufficient, the lives of ordinary people still cannot be separated from reality, and their food, clothing, and daily needs need to be communicated with the outside world. Normally, Bai Yan would definitely ignore them, but in special times, anything is possible. Perhaps there is a Blood Creek sect hidden among these people, so he directly touched them. The guards of the caravan are 2 cultivators with 7 layers of condensed gas, which is already considered very powerful among mortal forces. At least in Donglanshao, there are not many people who can be provoked. Besides, relying on Bai Yan's perfect perception of condensing qi, no other cultivator's aura was detected. Everything seemed so ordinary, with no visible flaws. Bai Yan frowned and decided to continue following. 2 more days passed, and there were still no abnormalities. It seemed that the team was really heading towards the nearby Donglin city, which greatly affected Bai Yan, who claimed to see through everything. Although he knew that the other party was definitely having a problem, as the saying goes, catching thieves and dirt, catching traitors and catching pears, there was no reason why Bai Yan felt embarrassed to hurt someone. At a moment of helplessness, a distant escape of blood caught his attention. How obvious this is! Who else can wield the blood sword? Of course, it is the Blood Creek sect of the neighboring village and the old rival of the Ling Creek sect. However, those who can fly in the sky are all foundation-building cultivators, and Bai Yan's cultivation is only in his prime, so he dare not rush out to seek death foolishly. After the Blood Creek sect cultivator handed over a secret scroll to the caravan guard, he left. The caravan of the Luochen family turned around and began their return journey. Bai Yan, who witnessed everything with his own eyes, became increasingly cold. Having read the original work, he had anticipated the betrayal of the Luochen family, but when he saw it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but feel indignant. This body has a very sincere affection for Lingxi sect, so from the bottom of his heart, he looks down on these traitors. The traitor must die, let's wait and see. Bai Yan did not follow, but chose to set a trap in a valley where they returned. Although he didn't pay much attention to the 2 cultivators with 7 layers of condensed gas, he still adhered to the principle of prudence and did not startle the snake in order to prevent any missed fish. Think about the fact that there is still a late foundation-building cultivator in the Luochen family who lives in this world. With his current abilities, he still cannot afford to provoke him. It is best to immediately flee after killing someone. The Luochen mountains are so large that sometimes even a smoke bomb can cause trouble, so Bai Yan decided to first deal with the dozen or so ordinary people in the caravan. Watching the other party's people and horses constantly driving towards the valley, Bai Yan's mouth showed a dangerous curve. When the whole group entered the valley, the giant stones he had arranged above fell with a loud bang. The other party's luck was also really bad. A group of ordinary people were thrown upside down, and even the 2 guards with 7 layers of condensed chi were caught off guard for a moment. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! One of the guards was furious and took out something similar to a signal flare from the storage bag. He was about to open the valve, but was stopped by Bai Yan, who wanted to calculate. He wielded his flying sword and with a whoosh, directly punctured the signal flare in the opponent's hand. Subsequently, Bai Yan leaped forward, and his fully condensed breath suddenly erupted, seemingly intimidating the opponent's mind. The next step is much simpler. His spiritual energy remained in his hands, transforming into a purple cauldron that stood 1 foot high. Purple Qi Hua Ding. Amidst the piercing gaze of a guard, it was smashed with a loud bang, causing their brains to splash and completely losing their vitality. The condensation state is perfect, who are you really? The other guard, seeing the situation was not good, dared not hesitate and rode the fierce horse, fleeing in a panic. Didn't anyone tell you, it's very dangerous to turn your back to the beast? Purple Chi Sword, Illinois. The fleeing guard couldn't dodge and ultimately couldn't escape the fate of being led by a sword lord. Looking back, there was only a mess left in the valley, with mournful swans everywhere. However, Bai Yan's gaze was unusually firm, and he said coldly. Perhaps some of you are very innocent and passively involved in this rebellion, even unaware of it, but who said you were born into this family? Accept your own destiny. Flying sword, illness. Several surviving descendants of the Chen family also fell to the ground in the next moment, ending their lives. Bai Yan found a sealed bamboo policy on the body of the guard, with a blood sword mark on it, indicating that it was a blood-refined item. He didn't dare to open it rashly until he knew what it was, so he put it in the storage bag. With a single thought, open the system interface. Yundao Unmatched System. Host. Bai Yan, lucky value 0.963 points cultivation. Level 10 of Condensed Gas Realm, satisfactory, technique. Purple Chi Riding Cauldron technique luck increased by 37 points, with 2 cultivators from the 7th layer of condensed gas each providing 15 points of luck, and the remaining 7 points coming from those mortals. This trip has been considered complete, it's time to return to the sect and report. Although Bai Yan was unable to retain the infiltrator of the Blood Creek sect, he also disrupted the cooperation between the other party and the Luo-Chen family. This is a great achievement, and the sect will definitely receive a heavy reward. As for the Luo-Chen family, once the fact of rebellion is confirmed, the outcome that welcomes them will be blood and bone. Considering that this place was not far from Luo-Chen Mountain Villa and was not a place to stay for a long time, Bai Yan turned around and rushed towards the direction of the sect. The wind is tight and pulling. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Falling Chen Extinction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Falling Chen Extinction. Leaving the area of the Luo-Chen Mountains, Bai Yan quickly pulled out a talisman paper, stimulated spiritual energy to burst into a stream of light, and shot it towards the direction of the Lingxi sect. Disciples who take on mysterious level tasks usually receive a spiritual talisman distributed by the Law Enforcement Hall, which is used to call and contact the sect. Shortly thereafter, news of Bai Yan's capture of the secret strategy of the Blood Creek sect and the rebellion of the Luo-Chen family was transmitted back to the sect. No one dared to delay such an urgent matter, and soon it reached the ears of the leader Zheng Yuandong. Elder Ouyang of the Law Enforcement Hall was tasked with verifying the authenticity of the information. 2 hours later, he presented evidence of the Chen family's betrayal of the Lingxi sect on the head's desk. At this moment, the 3 mountain leaders on the south bank are all gathered together, watching their expressions, and all are shocked. You mere vassal, how dare you bully me? Damn it, the Luo-Chen family. Zheng Yuandong sternly said, his eyes not concealing his intention to kill the Luo-Chen family. Junior brother Ouyang, quickly pass the order and recruit disciples to join us in attacking the Luo-Chen family. Order. Law Enforcement Hall Elder Ouyang Jia stood up and left. Soon after, the sound of war drums echoed on the south bank, and in just a few tens of seconds, more than 2,000 disciples gathered to teleport their troops to the Luo-Chen mountains through the Zhongdao mountain. At the same time, a hidden formation near the peak where Bai Yan was located suddenly emitted a dazzling light, and in no time, a dark and overwhelming figure was transmitted. Headmaster Zheng Yuandong had a keen sense of perception, and after locking in the position of Bai Yan not far away, he led the Nanan Sanfeng sect leader and a group of disciples to rush towards him. Disciple Bai Yan, pay respects to the leader, pay respects to the master, and pay respects to all the senior uncles. The first time Bai Yan saw such a battle, his whole body was numb. He nervously approached and secretly glanced at Li Qingho's blackened face, feeling a little nervous in his heart. Because he had received his original memories, he felt both fear and awe towards the master who had taken him as his disciple in the early years. However, Bai Yan didn't have time to reminisce about the unbearable past. He quickly took out the seized secret policy from his storage bag and presented it directly. Blood Seal Book, good method. Zheng Yuandong glanced at Bai Yan and joked, this seal is not insignificant. It hides a mechanism and must not be uncovered by a foundation-building cultivator. You are also clever and did not open it rashly. Otherwise, you should be lying here now. Bai Yan breathed a sigh of relief, his face full of happiness. As the old saying goes, the world is dangerous, so be careful. Scratching off the mark casually, Zheng Yuandong laid out a plan and looked at it, his face changed greatly. Reverse blood formation, scatter spirits and break seals. This is the formation that aims to tear open the Luo-Chen mountains from within. Li Qingho took over the secret plan to watch, his face turning even darker. He took a deep breath and said in a muffled tone. As an affiliated family, Luo-Chen has been sealed by our ancestors' bloodline. For thousands of years, his rebellious spirit has not died, and he probably plans to use this great formation to break free from the constraints of our sect. Fortunately, the conspiracy of the Blood Creek sect and the Luo-Chen family was exposed by our sect's disciples in advance, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. Su Meixiang, the head of Ziding Mountain, nodded and said, with a soft gaze towards Bai Yan. Since that's the case, what are we waiting for? Let's just surround the Luo-Chen mountain villa and kill him, causing a complete upheaval. Ouyang Jia had a fierce expression on his face and said angrily, but was pressed down by Zheng Yuandong. Junior brother, don't worry. There is still a late foundation building cultivator in the Luo-Chen family, which should not be underestimated. We need to deal with it carefully. It's better for us to first distract the other party and then let our disciples attack the disciples of the Luo-Chen mountain villa. The perimeter of Qingfeng mountain praised and said, Senior brother, the leader's words are very clever. The cultivators in the later stage of building the foundation are indeed quite remarkable. If they go crazy, they are afraid that our disciples will suffer heavy casualties. Let's follow senior brother's plan instead. Agree. Supplementary proposal. As the age of 1 year approaches, the 3 holy sites for building foundations, Meteor's Sword Abyss, One Secret Realm, and Ancient Spirit Cave, will open. The competition among the 4 major gates in the lower reaches of the Tongtian River is inevitable, and the training of disciples is also extremely necessary. The participation of disciples from the inner and outer gates on the south bank is also considered a battlefield training. After making up their minds, the leaders of the 3 peaks on the south bank and the sect each led a team of disciples to surround the Qinshan villa in different directions. Along the way, I encountered many attendants sent by the Luo-Chen family, but they were mercilessly killed by the leaders. Even if we can escape the monk, can we still escape the temple? Bai Yan sneered, with a strong look of disdain in his eyes. The defensive formation covering the Luo-Chen mountains has been quietly pushed open by the leader, and the Luo-Chen family has long been unable to retreat. Either wait to die or die in battle. Obviously, the leader of the Luochen family who learned the news was also unwilling to sit idly by and led the clan to the mountain villa, welcoming them head-on. Chen Feng, the guilty minister, knows that he has committed an unforgivable crime and will never be spared. However, the calamity is not as great as that of ordinary people. Please leave a bloodline for me, Tianjiao, as the Lord. What a disaster that cannot be compared to ordinary people. Ouyang Jie, who is known as a jackal Taoist, sneered, do you know that once the anti-blood formation is implemented, how many ordinary people will be stripped of their bones and blood, and how many ordinary people you speak of will be affected? Zheng Yuandong waved his hand and paused word by word, saying, my disciples have obeyed the order. Chen's rebellion is guilty, and his crime should be punished. We will leave no trace of him. Kill him. Kill. 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 The head of the Luochen family turned pale, with despair and unwillingness in his eyes, and an undisguised resentment. The Kalingsi sect of the Chen family has been suffering for a long time. Today, I have sacrificed my soul and bones, and I will definitely pay the price. Where are the children of the Chen family? Follow me. Kill them. Kill. 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 Zheng Yuandong and the Three Peaks sect almost simultaneously offered flying swords and attacked the leader of the Luochen sect in different directions. Even as a late cultivator, the opponent was unable to resist and was carried away from this place, leaving the battlefield for the disciples behind. Leaving aside the fate of the leader of the Luochen family, Bai Yan eagerly rushed into the crowd, spreading the perfect aura of condensed energy without reservation. Whether it was a low-level cultivator with 1 layer of condensed energy, or a mid-level cultivator with 6 or 7 layers of condensed energy, he was not a unified enemy under his command. He kept moving forward, chopping all the way, with fierce attacks and flowing movements, but behind him were rolling heads. Yu Guang glanced at the system interface, and the lucky value owed gradually decreased. Lucky value 0.711, lucky value 0.701, lucky value 0.688. The Luochen family is truly a leisure family that has been entrenched in the Luochen mountains for thousands of years, with thousands of disciples and disciples. Although it is mixed with ordinary people who are scrutinizing, it also divides the battlefield into hundreds of circles through the tactics of a sea of people. There are hundreds of people just surrounding Bai Yan, which is quite embarrassing for him. These are all lucky values. Bai Yan swallowed his saliva and a crazy expression appeared on his face. The lucky value provided by these people alone should be enough to make up for the debt. It's hard to say, he can still make a small profit. Oh, there's actually a big fish. With his current perception, he keenly discovered a cultivator with 9 layers of condensed qi hidden in the crowd. If nothing unexpected, this person should be Chen Heng, who is second only in strength to the head of the Luochen family. Eliminating a cultivator with 5 layers of condensed gas increases their luck by 10 points. As the difficulty increases, eliminating a cultivator with 7 layers of condensed gas increases by around 15 points. Therefore, if it were a cultivator with 9 layers of condensed gas, their luck would probably double. Bai Yan was secretly pleased in his heart, but he withdrew and quietly headed towards Chen Heng. Chen Heng didn't dare to confront him head-on. He must have wanted to use that devilish trick to secretly harm others. Bai Yan gave him a chance and left a loophole. As expected, a dark arrow rushed towards the eye, with a sharp angle. If it were an ordinary cultivator in the condensed qi realm, it would be impossible to defend against it. But Bai Yan, who was already at the end of the deep condensation realm, achieved a considerable degree of perception and physical control, turning around and passing by the arrow. The long sword slipped out of his hand, and the purple qi yu ding dong became powerful. With the use of spiritual energy, he fell ill. The flying sword shot in the direction of the arrow's arrival, and the target was Chen Heng trying to move from the back. Can you leave? Purple qi hua ding. Bai Yan's spiritual energy changed again, and a giant cauldron, which was about 2 zhang high, shot towards the direction of the opponent's escape. Along the way, the Chen family's children who were affected were all severely injured and flew away like lightning strikes. The purple chi riding cauldron technique has 10 layers of perfection, with terrifying power. Chen Heng, who knew he had no way to avoid, had no choice but to summon a puppet to block him and activate the blood refining technique. As if he had opened up his blood skin, his defense and destructive power were directly increased by about 3 layers, and his strength was close to the 10th layer of condensed chi. Surprisingly, he forcefully blocked this heavy blow. Luo Chen is truly a millennium-old immortal cultivation family, and surprisingly, he still has such a secret technique. Unfortunately, there is a huge gap in our strength, and having this technique is also lacking. Bai Yan pinched his hand and recited a decision, his eyes overflowing with purple light, and a huge spiritual energy burst out directly from his body. Purple Chi riding cauldron skill, transformation. 2 huge purple cauldrons gradually solidified, covering a shadow. Chen Heng's face suddenly changed, and he felt a strong sense of retreat in his heart. He turned around and ran away. Whoever doesn't run away has a brain problem, who can withstand this tripod falling down? Bai Yan was not in a hurry to chase after him. His spiritual power burst out, and 2 purple cauldrons roared towards the crowd. Bang! Bang! The effect was remarkable, with dozens of figures falling down, including 4 cultivators with 5 layers of condensed air. The formation of Chen Jia's children surrounded him was chaotic, forming a group of rabble. Under the flying sword of Bai Yan, all of them were fallen owls. Looking towards the direction of the mountain valley where Chen Heng fled, Bai Yan licked his lips and sneered, "It's your turn." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Bai Xiaochun appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Bai Xiaochun appears. The young master of the Luo Chen family is considered a somewhat capable figure, with strength no less than that of the inner sect Tianjiao of the Lingxi sect. To be honest, Bai Yan can't even defeat him for a while. 2 people in front and 1 behind, with equal speed. But as time passed, Chen Heng's secret technique gradually dissipated, and his entire spirit weakened significantly, slowing down significantly. Time is also destiny, let's seize it without restraint. Bai Yan said coldly, his spiritual power exploding beneath him, and his position was approaching, followed closely by the neck-slaying sword. You bullied me too much, it was you who forced me. Chen Heng stopped and fought his injuries to catch the sword, leaving a trail of blood. Secret technique, blood knife slash. This secret technique belongs to the taboo of the Luo Chen family and is extremely domineering. The half-body blood essence of the cultivator is condensed into a blood knife, which is powerful enough to be comparable to a foundation building strike. If it weren't for being forced into a desperate situation, Chen Heng wouldn't have used this ultimate move. This knife is used to determine both victory and death. Bai Yan is just a cultivator in the condensing chi realm, and he has not practiced physical training, let alone dare not forcefully accept it. But with the opponent's sacrifice in a blow, the chi machine in the dark had already locked him in, so how could he avoid it? An unprecedented sense of crisis spread in Bai Yan's heart, and a hint of panic appeared in his eyes, but now he could only grit his head and hold on. Purple Chi Hua Ding, hold it up for me. At a critical moment, Bai Yan unleashed his full spiritual power and unleashed a giant cauldron that was over 5 zhang high. With a thud, the cauldron protected him. Kang, the blood knife was as powerful as 1,000 jun, and it struck the purple cauldron. The sound of gold and stone suddenly exploded, and the air continued to shake. The defense of the purple cauldron is astonishing, but even so, the body of the cauldron is still unbearable, with cracks emerging and shattering in an instant. No matter how strong the purple chi riding cauldron skill is, there is always a limit. As a beginner in the sect, it can only barely withstand the opponent's fierce blow. Take it to death. The secret method consumed a huge amount of energy. At this moment, Chen Heng had run out of oil and his face was extremely pale. However, he paid no attention and wielded his sword to slay Bai Yan again. This move exhausts everything, either you die or I live, Bai Yan felt sad in his heart. After all, he had started too early and had too few means. At this moment, not only was his physical strength exhausted, but his spiritual power was also almost exhausted. He could only offer a weak magic sword and try to block it. The bloody blade fell, and Bai Yan found in despair that the magic sword in his hand was about to be destroyed, unable to resist a single moment. What about Lingxi Sect's Tianjiao? He still died in my hands. The ending seemed destined, and Chen Heng's eyes shone brightly across from him. At the last moment, he seemed to see the tragic fate of this despicable young man. But the next moment what he saw made his pupils shrink. Impossible, why didn't we hit him? He roared low, looking incredulous. He can't accept this result, it's cheating, it's a foul, it's too bullying. Bai Yan had originally closed his eyes and planned to lead his neck to slaughter, but what he didn't expect was a reversal of the outcome. He glanced at the short sword in his hand, glanced at the large tree with half of its body cut off from the side, and looked up at Chen Heng, who was heart-wrenching. He blinked his eyes, showing some innocence. At this point, the system interface suddenly popped up, displaying a reminder that the lucky value credit balance was full. Bai Yan was blessed to the heart and suddenly understood what was going on. It turned out that due to the system, his luck had exploded and he avoided the opponent's fatal blow. However, the cost was too high, making him owe a large amount of luck again. After working hard for a long time, I returned to before the liberation. Although Bai Yan felt a bit unwilling in his heart, at least he survived through this, and it was difficult for him to say anything. However, he did not intend to spare the culprit who caused all of this. Master Luo Chen, Chen Heng. Have you ever heard of the top 10 tortures in the late Qing dynasty? Never. It's okay, I'll teach you hand in hand. On the other hand, the situation on the main battlefield has become quite clear, and the children of the Luo Chen family are gradually being forced back to the Luo Chen mountain villa. Headmaster Zheng Yuandong and his companions have returned at an unknown time. Lingling on a nearby high branch, the fate of the head of the Chen family can be imagined. Bai Yan rushed back from the mountains, his face slightly pale, but he was refreshed. Chen Heng, this kid, had a lucky score of 100 points and barely regained his oral health. Very open, he joined the battlefield again. The remaining members of the Luo Chen tribe are mostly cultivators. Although they are not many, they excel in their essence and are enough for Bai Yan to drink soup. Half a day later, as the last member of the Chen family in Luo Chen mountain villa fell, it also meant the end of this campaign against rebellion. As for the remaining closing matters, the leader Zheng Yuandong entrusted full power to the law enforcement hall, and most of the people followed him into the teleportation array and returned to the Lingxi sect. Bai Yan, come with me. Upon returning to Shangyun Mountain, Li Qingho, the abbot, summoned him to the main hall, and Bai Yan anxiously closed the door. Master, is there anything urgent? Li Qingho gave him a deep glance without saying a word, but instead looked at him, feeling flustered and slightly cold. I remember half a month ago, you only condensed 8 layers of gas. How come you have now broken through to the perfect 10th layer? Mount Bai Yan rubbed his head and hesitated to speak before asking, do you want to hear the truth or lie? To be honest. Cough and cough, Bai Yan breathed a sigh of relief, his eyes turned, and he pretended to be honest, saying, half a month ago, I received a task to go to Donglanzhao to handle affairs. I found a red fruit in a cave, and I thought it was a spiritual fruit. Driven by curiosity, I took it and didn't want a huge burst of medicinal power to burst out, helping my younger brother complete the breakthrough of the condensing qi realm. Li Qingho nodded, as if accepting this statement. There are many medicinal herbs and spiritual pills in the cultivation world that can help people practice. Bai Yan's harvest is reasonable, and besides, he just casually asked, but he didn't actually intend to delve deeper. Suddenly, Li Qinghe frowned and flew out of the hall as if summoned. Master, don't leave. I still have something to report to you. Bai Yan still wanted to catch up, but as he looked at the figure of the imperial sword disappearing, he could only angrily wave his fist. I originally planned to ask for the Divine Skills secret collection that was suitable for me, but it seems that I can only talk about it later. The battle with Chen directly exposed Bai Yan's weaknesses. At present, what he lacks is the means to deal with the enemy. He lacks sharp divine abilities and strong martial arts. Even if his cultivation in the condensed Qi realm is complete, it will be difficult to match the Tianjiao in the same realm. As a disciple of his inner sect, he can choose between 2 divine powers and 1 martial arts. Once he officially enters the foundation building period, he can even obtain advanced inheritance techniques. Do you want to try practicing the fragments of Immortal Longevity skill? If we talk about the strongest cultivation method in the heavenly continent, this complete cultivation method is definitely among the top, but the problem is that it is extremely difficult to get started with, and only those with strong willpower can practice it. Moreover, every stage of cultivation requires a massive amount of vitality. Of course, this is not the most difficult problem yet. The key is that Lingxi's sect has only retained a fragment, and it is almost impossible to gather all the martial arts to reach the heavens. However, it is possible to make a copy as an alternative. The cultivation of the Immortal Longevity technique is destined to be slow, and Bai Yan naturally has the confidence to successfully cultivate it with a system. However, what matters is that this technique is very expensive. How many spirit-tailed chickens did Bai Xiaochun consume when refining leather, and how many people's blood did Blood Creek Sect absorb at that time? These resources were not a small amount. Bai Yan felt that his shortcomings were too obvious, which was poverty. He needed spiritual stones without spiritual stones, and pills without pills. His cultivation relied entirely on closed-mindedness and enlightenment. Sure enough, I have also suffered from poverty in my life. The more he thought, the more helpless Bai Yan became. Feeling depressed, he decided to return directly to his own cave and continue his seclusion. A few days later, Bai Yan received a summons from Li Qinghe. On the way to the main hall of Shangyun Mountain, he happened to see a white and clean young man holding Li Qinghe's feet and calling out to him, "Uncle Li." Bai Yan's eyes lit up and he thought to himself that this was the legendary, Black and Dirty, the future emperor, the present Bai Xiaochun. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Initial Forging Body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Initial Forging Body. It looks pure and kind, but unfortunately it's a big black stain. Bai Yan smiled at Bai Xiaochun, but his heart sighed and shook his head. If Bai Xiaochun goes up the mountain, then the peaceful days of Lingxi's sect may not be many. With the opponent's ability to manipulate things, it is estimated that a group of elders and disciples will follow behind him in the future. When Li Qinghe saw Bai Yan rushing over, he hurriedly escaped and flew into the air, restoring his original dignity. He instructed. This son's name is Bai Xiaochun. He is an old friend of mine. Take him to the outer door to collect clothes and spiritual stones, and find a safe place to live. Understood, my own person. Bai Yan blinked tacitly and nodded in satisfaction, then said, Now that I have successfully entered the stage of condensing qi, I still lack the secret technique. Take it, good cultivators, don't slack off. Li Qinghe gave a secret notebook and turned around to wield his sword and leave gracefully. Bai Yan opened the secret manuscript and found that the development was actually a transitional technique called Dragon Elephant Transformation C Classic that continued the purple qi riding the cauldron technique. Its content is divided into 3 layers, corresponding to 9 layers of condensed gas, 10 layers of condensed gas, and the last layer is for building foundations, which can perfectly graft the purple qi riding the cauldron technique and increase the probability of building foundations. To the extreme, the physical body possesses the power of dragons and elephants, and the spiritual power within the body transforms into a majestic sea, with a profound foundation. After building the foundation, it can be inclusive of any martial arts and supernatural powers, without rejection or taking the wrong path. With this high-quality cultivation method, there is finally a guarantee when building the foundation of the earth's veins, and it won't be too inferior to other heavenly prides. Bai Yan was in a good mood and beckoned by Xiaochun to walk towards the outside door. The latter is quite familiar and starts chatting freely with Bai Yan. "May I ask for your surname, teacher?" "My surname is Bai, and my single name is Yan. Speaking of which, we are still from our own family." Along the way, Bai Xiaochun did not conceal her curiosity, looking around without forgetting to ask questions, especially about prolonging life. Bai Yan naturally knows everything without hesitation and speaks endlessly. When he learned that a cultivator could extend their life by at least 100 years with each level of advancement, the light in his eyes became even brighter, and even Bai Yan could feel the other person's burning heart towards the Tao. After receiving the necessary items for daily life from the field department, Bai Yan took him to the fire stove room outside the door, as a laborer, and conveyed Li Qingho's message, hoping that the people in the fire stove room could take good care of the new Bai Xiaochun. Subsequently, Bai Yan walked out of the fire stove room with the warm and respectful greetings of his disciples. The head of the fire stove kitchen, named Zhang Dehai, saw that Bai Xiaochun had a kind face and called on 7 other disciples to help introduce him. Bai Xiaochun looked at the other person's easy-going demeanor and was happy to get along with them. Then he curiously asked, "I see that my senior brothers seem to have great respect for my white senior brother. Why is this?" Upon hearing Bai Xiaochun's words, Zhang Dehai raised an eyebrow and exclaimed in surprise, "You actually don't know who he is." Seeing Bai Xiaochun's innocent expression, it seemed that he was really unaware. Zhang Dehai then informed him, "He is the chief inner disciple of our generation in Shanyun Mountain, with a respected status. We are only miscellaneous disciples, so we naturally need to respect him." The disciples of Lingxi's sect are divided into 2 lines. Firstly, the miscellaneous disciples reach the 3rd level of condensing qi and advance into the outer gate. External disciples can only become internal disciples after achieving 8 or more levels of condensed qi and passing internal trials. After reaching the foundation building period, inner disciples can receive inheritance and become elders of Yifeng. Secondly, if a foundation-building cultivator can advance to the golden elixir stage within 2 years, they can automatically be promoted to the lineage of the sect, with a status equivalent to that of a supreme elder. So senior brother Bai is so amazing. Bai Xiaochun was greatly impressed. He didn't expect any disciple under Uncle Li to have such a high status. Isn't Uncle Li even more impressive? It seems that we often have to visit them to visit the sect when we have nothing to do. When something happens in the sect, we have senior brother Bai to protect us. Senior brother Bai can't hold back and Uncle Li to protect us. Ha, I'm really smart, Bai Xiaochun. On the other hand, Bai Yan did not return to the cave, but rushed to the Sutra Pavilion. Now there are only about 3 years left until the opening of the first phase of the Foundation construction Holy Land, and he is considering learning more divine skills and secret techniques. In the past, he had also come to search for and found 2 good secret techniques, but due to the insufficient contribution points earned by the sect, he could only sigh and see. In the Battle of Luochen Mountain Villa, all disciples of the sect were able to make a fortune, and Bai Yan was no exception. Bringing 2 secret notebooks to the elder guarding the pavilion, he paid his points and rubbed the copies before leaving happily. Returning to the cave, he first opened a book called Rain at Night, which contained 2 layers of sword techniques. The first layer is to feel the spirit of the sword, understand the meaning of the sword, and reach the state of unity between man and sword. Between wielding the sword, it feels like the wind entering the night. The spring rain moistens everything silently, and in close combat, it is unparalleled in strength, comparable to a master in the realm of transformation. On the second level, the imperial envoy wields the spirit of the sword, consolidating the sword's momentum. Each move transforms decay into magic, stirring up the wind and clouds. At the depth of cultivation, one can set up a stormy sword formation and use the overwhelming power to defeat enemies, making it the most suitable for group attacks. One of Bai Yan's shortcomings in cultivation is his lack of defense, and his cultivation focuses on physical strength. Therefore, in the second volume, he chose a forging fist technique called Fu Gang Quan. Fist is divided into 3 layers, with 1 layer refining leather, 2nd layer tendon boiling, 3-layer clavicle. Although his martial arts style is not as strong as Immortal Longevity skill, he excels in that it is easy to learn and can be refined in a short period of time, which can be used when the founding Holy Land is opened. During the day, Bai Yan boiled his body in front of the cave, while at night he stimulated the absorption of energy through a medicinal bath. This continued for several months, with the consumption of spiritual herbs almost depleting the contribution points he earned. But the result was gratifying, as he smoothly entered the first layer of refining the skin, with his leather like iron and his defense doubled. The practice has finally come to an end, and Bai Yan plans to go down the mountain to relax and unwind. He has always remembered the principle that only with relaxation and relaxation can one last for a long time since entering the path of cultivation. Coincidentally greedy, I happened to go to the fire stove outside and take a look at Bai Xiaochun. I don't know if he found the correct usage of the turtle shell after receiving it. Don't be fooled by the fact that the turtle shell looks ordinary now, it is a genuine Weiyang turtle shell. Legend has it that it is a first-class treasure in the world of heaven, with unparalleled defense. Its ability to refine spirits alone is unparalleled. Originally, Bai Yan had considered cutting off his beard, but it was obvious that he had no connection with the treasure. A force in the dark pulled him away and made him miss it. At this moment, he suddenly regained his senses with a cold shock and had no idea about the shell of the Weiyang turtle. Do you think that Bai Xiaochun will achieve eternity in the future? Simply playing with the eternal flowers in the river of time can change everything now. Bai Yan doesn't want to be erased by the great terror of the future just because it has affected Bai Xiaochun's growth. However, whenever he thinks of missing the treasure, he still feels heartbroken. After all, it is the treasure of the eternal realm. Forget it, I'm at least a traveler with a system, and there's no reason why I won't be as good as the protagonist in the future. Let's ride a donkey and look at the songbook. We'll see. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Wise Sword Unsheaths. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Wise Sword Unsheaths. Coincidentally, today is the entrance exam for the outer door, and there are only a few miscellaneous disciples left in the fire stove room responsible for guarding the door. It is obvious that Bai Xiaochun and Zhang Dehai have all gone to join the fun. But this does not affect Bai Yan coming here to enjoy the autumn breeze. After a while, Bai Yan, who was full of wine and food, walked out. Seeing that it was still early, he decided to go to the examination room to check the situation. The difficulty of entering the external entrance exam is not high, but any disciple with more than 3 layers of condensed qi can easily pass. Bai Xiaochun has great talent, passing the exam is just a matter of time. Well, Bai Xiaochun easily shook off his competitors and arrived at the finish line first. The number of external disciples was within reach. Leaving aside the events that followed, Bai Yan quietly avoided the candidates and walked towards the direction of the Wanyao Pavilion in Shangyun Mountain. Wanyao Pavilion has always been bustling with people, and most of the visitors here are disciples from outside who are interested in knowledge of plants and trees, including those from Qingfeng Mountain in Xiding Peak. The most prominent among the 10,000 medicine pavilion are the 10 towering stone tablets, which can only be left with imprints by those with exceptional talent in plants and trees. Bai Yan looked at the stone tablet with a sigh on his face. Once upon a time, he also tried to leave his own imprint on it. However, he practiced all 6 paths, but he knew nothing about alchemy. The fact that the disciples of Shangyun Mountain are not proficient in alchemy is truly surprising. Unlike a group of cultivators who spend their days working in the pharmacy alchemy, Bai Yan is a skilled fighter. It must be said that he is more suitable for Qingfeng Mountain, which is known for its swordsmanship. However, as a teacher for a day and a lifelong father, since he chose to apprentice to Li Qingho, he never considered changing his family. Bai Yan looked at a group of energetic junior brothers and sisters, and surprisingly felt calm in his heart. This faint bond and sense of belonging immersed him in it, quite comfortable. Suddenly, the crowd became restless, leading to a path from which a beautiful and charming disciple emerged. Senior Sister Zhou is here. The news that came out earlier is indeed true. Senior Sister Zhou will come here these days, so it's not in vain for us to wait here for several days. Last time it was the 4th chapter of Grass and Wood, and the 5th chapter of Spirit Beast. Senior Sister Zhou was the first. This time, she will definitely challenge the 5th chapter of Grass and Wood. There were discussions all around, and the disciples who were watching were enthusiastic. The crowd suddenly became crowded again. Bai Yan is quite far away, but he can vaguely see the beautiful figures moving forward in groups. Undoubtedly, you are the designated successor of your master. This medicinal talent is truly amazing. I hope you have gone further than me. Bai Yan's eyes were filled with nostalgia. Once upon a time, he also ranked among the top 10 and was highly sought after, but later he realized that he couldn't refine pills, which was truly sad and lamentable. Bai Yan did not choose to leave, but instead squatted on a huge square rock and looked around. To be honest, he was quite curious about which step Zhou Xinqi could take. However, what he didn't know was that there was always a dark and unclear aura emanating from his body. Guided by an inexplicable force, this aura unexpectedly followed Zhou Xinqi into the wooden house. An hour later, the wooden door under the stone tablet opened, and Zhou Xinqi walked out with a disappointed expression on her face. Judging from her expression, the assessment seemed to have gone against her. As expected, the imprint on the stone tablet remained unshakable. With a slight frown, Zhou Xinqi withdrew her steps and returned to the wooden door, launching a new round of challenges. This time, she took longer, but the ending did not change, and the imprint of her predecessors still appeared on the stone tablet. It seems that she has failed again. I'm feeling unwell today, I'll try again tomorrow. Zhou Xinqi spoke like this, as if talking to herself, or as if speaking to others around her, and then walked away with heavy steps. Today's incident is quite strange. She made frequent mistakes during the assessment and almost succeeded several times, which is truly regrettable. As she said, maybe I'm really not in the mood today. Scattered, come back tomorrow. The onlookers scattered in unison, but there was not much gossip, indicating that they trusted Zhou Xinqi's talent and abilities quite a bit. Bai Yan's eyes showed confusion, believing that with Zhou Xinqi's strength, winning the 5th stone tablet should be more than enough. Why did she fail? He didn't hesitate even if he couldn't figure it out. After all, it was not his own business. He turned around and walked towards the main hall at the top of Shangyun Peak, where the throne of Shangyun Peak was located. These days, he has encountered some doubts in his practice and is about to seek advice from his chief master. Arriving outside the palace, he was blocked by a gatekeeper. The palm seat has orders, and no one is allowed to disturb him while he is refining pills. Bai Yan nodded to show understanding. Li Qingho is the only pharmacist of the Lingxi sect. There should not be too many people asking him to refine pills. The situation of being closed off like today often happens. Bai Yan found a shady plot of land, took out a lounge chair from the storage bag, and skillfully lay down. He planned to take a cool breath while waiting. Little did they know that his inexplicable aura was quietly drifting towards the direction of the inner alchemy room. Suddenly, with a loud bang, an explosion of the alchemy furnace came from the alchemy room, causing a lot of noise and almost overturning the roof of the alchemy room. Master makes very few mistakes in alchemy, today is really strange. A strange color appeared in Bai Yan's eyes. He clicked on the system interface and looked at the lucky value owed, lost in thought. Is it because of me? Half an hour later, the sound of the furnace exploding again came from the alchemy room, but Bai Yan couldn't sit still and turned around to run away. No matter what the reason is, Li Qinghe's mood must be extremely bad at this time, and he is really not suitable to appear in front of the other party. If the other party finds a reason and hangs him up to fight, then there's really no place to cry. Bai Yan originally planned to stroll around the 3 peaks on the south bank, but now it seems that his plan has run aground. What happened today is somewhat eerie. Before understanding the reason, Bai Yan decided to stay in his own cave to avoid the wind and also meditate on the sword technique of rain at night, in seclusion. The entry threshold for sword technique is high, but it's okay, who let Bai Yan carry the system. Although I owe a lot of lucky points, at least there are still over 100 lucky points left, so one close is enough. As his thoughts sank into the sea of consciousness, Bai Yan immediately fell into a state of ethereal contemplation. With one thought of the 9 secluded mountains and clear waters, and one thought of the 4 seas and 8 wastelands, the direction of one's thoughts and the direction of one's heart are all boundless, and everything is accomplished. Bai Yan is in a special state of emptiness and clarity, feeling that blessings are supreme to the soul. He easily solves all the difficulties encountered in his daily practice, and this experience is very wonderful and intoxicating. Taking this opportunity, he will not give up the opportunity to practice rain at night. Everything has a spirit, born from the soul and originating from the heart. According to the sword technique, practitioners of swordsmanship need to have a clear understanding and insight in order to open their minds. Wisdom comes from the mind, and those who are sharp can produce the wisdom sword, which is the key to touching the spirit of the sword. The so-called wise heart means to be transparent and able to perceive all things in nature. Therefore, the opening of the wise heart is very difficult. Ordinary sword cultivation can only rely on a long period of time to hone one's true heart and have a chance of success. However, Bai Yan, who was in a vague state, did not need to spend so much time. In this state, his thoughts were consistent, clear-minded, pointing directly to his true intention, but in between. 5 days later, a sharp edge pierced through Bai Yan's cave and immediately caught the attention of many elders in Xiaochun mountain. Even Li Qinghe, who was practicing alchemy in seclusion, came to inspect. Is this the meaning of the sword? This kid is only 16 years old, he actually understood the meaning of the sword. In addition to the sword spirit body of Shangguan Tianyu, there is now another person in our Lingxi sect who has understood the meaning of the sword. It is truly fortunate and congratulatory. Bai Yan walked out of the cave, his whole body filled with sharpness like a peerless sword unsheathed. His gaze was incredibly sharp, making it almost impossible for ordinary people to look directly at him. The wise sword is unsheathed, showing its sharpness, nothing more than that. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Sword Finger Tianjiao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Sword Finger Tianjiao. Quickly, the news of Bai Yan gathering his sword spirit spread, causing a sensation on both sides of the north and south. It was only then that people realized that there was also a powerful figure like Bai Yan in Xiaochun mountain. Originally an unknown figure, Bai Yan suddenly erupted, truly shocking everyone's jaws. Only by condensing his qi can he comprehend the meaning of the sword, and Tianjiao, the inner gate of Lingxi sect, deserves his place. Bai Yan was summoned to the main hall of the sect for questioning, and none of the 7 peaks on both sides of the strait were absent, all of whom came to listen. During this questioning, Bai Yan had already had a rough idea in his mind, so he focused on avoiding things and didn't mention anything about the system. He only recounted how he closed himself up and how he realized the process of comprehending the Huijian. Upon hearing this, everyone understood the whole story and marveled at Bai Yan's profound fortune. At the same time, they were even more shocked by his exceptional talent in swordsmanship. The poem Rain in the Night was created by the late years of Lingxi Zongxing Yuanzhenren 2000 years ago. The sword technique is divided into 2 layers, which is truly profound and mysterious. The sword technique emphasizes the generation of a wise sword from a wise heart, incorporating the sword's meaning into the sword's form. Its boundless and imaginative concept is breathtaking. Unfortunately, the immortal Xingyuan passed away early and did not have time to perfect this sword technique. Otherwise, this sword technique would definitely be no weaker than the top 10 secret techniques of our sect. Unfortunately, the entry-level requirements for this sword technique are too high, requiring practitioners to have a clear and wise heart. Therefore, it is destined that such sword techniques cannot be practiced by those who are not exceptionally talented. The previous leader could not bear to keep them in a high cabinet, in order to prevent the pearl of the sword technique from being covered in dust, so they placed it in the scripture storage room for their disciples to study. The evaluation of the sword technique by everyone is quite high, and Bai Yan, who views the cultivation of sword intent, naturally stands out even more. Among them, the gaze of Qingfeng Mountain towards Bai Yan was particularly different. Bai Yan's talent in swordsmanship is evident to all, and the masters of other peaks also wish to have him under their command. How could a famous flower have a master? Bai Yan was taken as a disciple by Li Qingho early on. Li Qingho sat steadily on the fishing platform, with a smile on his face. He glanced at everyone present and successfully caught a wave of white eyes. Li Haizi, don't be complacent for now. Unlike before, Bai Yan's swordsmanship talent is extraordinary and he is no longer an ordinary disciple. If he wants to further his swordsmanship, he must have a better cultivation environment. Therefore, he should join our Qingfeng Mountain lineage. The eyebrows of Qingfeng Mountain's palm seat curved, and he stroked his beard with a smile before turning to persuade Jing Yuandong, senior brother, you know that throughout the sect, only I, Qingfeng Mountain, have a complete inheritance of swordsmanship. Allowing Bai Yan to continue staying in Shangyun Mountain is purely a waste of talent. You fart, as a disciple of this sect, it's not your turn to meddle in Qingfeng Mountain. Li Qingho couldn't hold back any longer, and his face instantly turned red. He offered a flying sword in front of him and said aggressively, "Do you think my sword is not good? Alright, today I'll show you the strength of my seat," said the Qingfeng Mountain master without any fear, as he approached with his sword. The leader of Ziding Mountain quickly slowed down and advised him kindly, but the other party finally stopped. Jing Yuandong pressed his palm slightly to prevent the two from continuing their argument. This matter still needs to consult with Bai Yan himself. I think Li, as a master, should respect the decision of his disciples. Bai Yan had no interest in Qingfeng Mountain and immediately stated that he wanted to stay at Shangyun Mountain. At this point, the matter of Bai Yan consolidating his sword spirit has come to an end. After returning, Li Qingho was overjoyed and rewarded Bai Yan with a magical treasure called the Xianhe shield. After recognizing the Lord, spiritual power can drive up the shield to withstand the full force of ordinary foundation-building cultivators' attacks. Bai Yan obtained a treasure for nothing and bid farewell to the other party with a happy mood. However, he didn't rush back to his residence, but instead came to the law enforcement hall and hesitated at the entrance of the task hall. Now that the credit limit for lucky value is full, he has to complete the task to repay the shortfall. Moreover, his sect contribution value is already very low, and he can no longer afford the energy consumption of Tiger Subduing Fist. Bai Yan acted swiftly and decisively. That night, he went down the mountain to help suppress the turmoil in Shilin City. According to the mission, it should have been done by evil cultivators. His task was to assist the elders in charge of the city lord's mansion in uncovering the hidden culprits, regardless of life or death. In the blink of an eye, time flies, and 3 years are fleeting. For the past 3 years, Bai Yan, who is passionate about tasks, has been running around outside. During this period, he selectively took on tasks related to killing ferocious beasts because he discovered that killing them could also earn him lucky points. Hunting grounds such as the Cloud Mountain Range, Hanlin Mountain Range, Jingfeng Mountain Range, and Yuandong Mountain Range, where fierce beasts gather, have declined and he has wandered through them all. During these 3 years, he frequently entered and exited dangerous areas, and with his superb swordsmanship, he overcame many obstacles. Of course, the return is also quite generous. Not only did he repay the outstanding lucky value early, but he also earned an additional lucky value of nearly 10,000. On the other hand, the contribution value of the sect has also risen to an exaggerated number. During this period, his cultivation did not fall behind, and he had basically understood the purple chi riding cauldron technique grafted with the dragon elephant sea transformation classic given by Li Qingho. Now, his physical body is strong, possessing the power of dragons and elephants, and his spiritual power is as majestic as the sea, with an extremely deep foundation. Moreover, the spiritual energy within its dantian forms a cyclone, which is only one step away from building the foundation. As for the aspect of physical cultivation, Bai Yan can be said to attach great importance to it. He almost spent all the sect contribution he earned on it. As a result, his practice of tiger subduing fist also reached a great success, successfully refining into iron sheets, steel bars, and iron bones. Of course, Bai Yan's major is still the sword technique of Little Night Rain. After all, this is his main means of defending against enemies. By consuming a massive amount of lucky points and relying on the help of the system, he successfully comprehended the second layer of the sword technique's mysteries, and was able to concentrate sword battles by commanding sword spirits. For a moment, Bai Yan's combat power skyrocketed, truly possessing the qualification to confront the strongest Tianjiao of sects such as Blood Creek Sect Song K Head. On the other hand, he has been keeping an eye on Bai Xiaochun's updates. The other party used Little Turtle as the code name and achieved the first place on the stone steel of the 10,000 medicine pavilion, fiercely rubbing the sharpness of Zhou Xinqi, a genius in the field of medicine. Previously, in the Battle of Tianjiao on both sides of the north and south, he outnumbered all Tianjiao and was promoted to the position of inner sect disciple as the first, which surprised countless people. I heard that his famous work, Love Pill, has also been released. In addition, Bai Xiaochun has also done a lot of ridiculous things. For example, using animal poison test pills to cause a great animal frenzy in Shangyun Mountain, studying the heavenly thunder washing medicine technique almost caused thunder to destroy Shangyun Mountain, and running to Ziding Mountain to study the mutual generation and restraint of medicinal herbs, resulting in acid rain on the 2 mountains of Ziding and Qingfeng, causing anger among the 3 mountains on the south bank, and ultimately being thrown into the valley of 10,000 snakes by Master Li Qingho. Even if he is later taken to the north bank by the sect leader Zheng Yuandong, good news about him will continue to spread back to the 3 peaks on the south bank, which is astonishing. However, Bai Xiaochun's strength is beyond doubt. From what he has done, it can be seen that whether it is the Tianjiao on both sides of the north and south, the outer gate is the first, or perhaps the trial platform has won the 3,000 challengers and subdued the heroes of the north bank, or perhaps he realized 130 days before the statue of the ferocious beast on the trial platform and gave birth to the spirit of the original destiny of the Water Zhe Kingdom, both of which are stating this fact. Bai Xiaochun is the unparalleled pride of our Lingxi sect. I am truly the protagonist. In just a few years, I came from behind and now I don't have the confidence to win him. Bai Yan shook his head inside. At present, less than a month has passed since the opening of the 3 holy sites for building foundations downstream of the Tongtian River artery. It is feared that the sect has already begun to mobilize and prepare. Bai Yan decided to go back and rest well, and be prepared. For Bai Yan, who earns luck by killing enemies, as long as his strength is sufficient, the founding Holy Land can be used as a hunting ground and he can freely attack other sect disciples without worrying about their background. Why not kill the Tianjiao of other sects and even receive rewards from the sect? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Blocked Doors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Blocked doors. Sect mission hall entrance. After handing over hundreds of ferocious beast cores, Bai Yan left this place in the admiration of his disciples. This mission not only earned him 1,000 points of luck, but also 20,000 sect contribution points. Open the system interface. Unparalleled system of transportation, host. Bai Yan, lucky value. 4131 points cultivation. Level 10 of condensed gas realm, satisfactory, skills. Purple Chi riding cauldron skill, dragon elephant transforming sea classic, night rain, secret, tiger subduing fist, secret, still as simple as ever, it's no different from a whiteboard, and I don't know when new modules will be awakened. Perhaps the timing hasn't arrived yet. With such self-comfort, Bai Yan walked out the door towards the main hall at the top of Xiaochun mountain. Li Qinghe once sent a message to Jian, ordering him to go to his place to report as soon as he returned, probably because there was something special to explain. After entering the main hall, Bai Yan saw that someone was already sitting above the head seat. It turned out that Su Meixiang and Li Qinghe, the heads of the Purple Ding Peak, were discussing matters. Uncle Bai Yan, you still remember coming back. You know how worried your master is about you, said Bai Yan coquettishly, glancing at His Highness at the head of Xiding Peak. He didn't forget to brew a cup of tea for Li Qinghe's position. For Su Meixiang's behavior of dominating the crowd, Bai Yan only ignored it. As a disciple of Li Qinghe, I still understand to some extent the ambiguous relationship between my master and the other party. The unfilial disciple has caused the master's concern. Bai Yan pleaded for mercy, his gaze fixed on Li Qinghe, and the corners of his eyes twitched. I saw the other person drinking tea as if nothing had happened, holding a book of scriptures in their hand. The beauty was by the side, and the red sleeves added fragrance, making them envious of others. So that the other party can still remember me as a disciple, should I be moved to cry. With a deep sigh in his heart, Bai Yan still didn't forget to ask, Master has called me here, but what if? Why, can't we just call you over if we have nothing to do? Li Qinghe raised his eyebrows and said, realizing that it's been a long time since we last saw each other. His disciples have undergone significant changes. Where's the matter with Master? Do we usually chat less? You specifically called me over but didn't speak. Isn't this making my heart itch? Bai Yan closed his eyes and scratched his head, his expression relaxed, and he said loosely. Upon hearing this, Li Qinghe nodded and put down the teacup in his hand. His expression became more serious and he said. In 1 month, the 3 major holy sites for building foundations will be opened. At that time, the sect will dispatch qualified disciples of the condensed Qi period to go. The North Bank will select 150 people this time, and the South Bank will select 100 people, all of whom are inner disciples of the condensed Qi 10th floor. They will gather in the main hall of Zhongdao Mountain. 250 condensed Qi are complete. Bai Yan muttered to himself, recalling that 3 years ago, there were only a few disciples on the 7 meridians and 10 layers of condensed Qi on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Now why are so many people breaking through? Upon closer examination, most people probably rely on elixirs to forcefully elevate their realm. This kind of sprouting promotes the instability of their foundation, and it's no wonder most people in the original work are those who use soy sauce. Li Qinghe nodded and continued. There are many disciples from my Xiaochun mountain lineage who are qualified to go to the foundation building Holy Land this time, but I only have high expectations for Xiaochun, Xi and Qi, and the 3 of you. Your strength is not inferior to other sects Tianjiao. However, the resources in the Holy Land are still limited. In order for you to better build the foundation, I plan to arrange the 3 of you to different Holy Lands. Among the people leading the team this time is your Uncle Su, who is responsible for bringing disciples to the spiritual cave. I have asked her to include you in her team, do you understand? I understand, disciple. After careful consideration, Bai Yan realized that the energy accumulated in each foundation building Holy Land should be limited, otherwise it wouldn't only open once a year. To avoid colliding with powerful and abnormal individuals like Song Ke, it is necessary to divide the army into 3 routes. He's not afraid of them, he just doesn't want to waste time arguing with them. With this free time, it's better to slaughter a few people to earn more luck. According to the original work, the strongest group of people mostly went to the meteor sword abyss, and the cultivators in the ancient spirit cave and the secret realm were not very strong, just suitable as their hunting targets. So, thank you very much, senior uncle. My nephew has seen this outside, it's just based on our relationship with your master. Su Meixiang smiled and looked at Li Qingho, who was silently bowing her head in anger. She shook her head and stopped speaking, then lightly passed a golden hairpin with her jade finger. The golden snake hairpin is made by me using the golden snake soul as a guide and refining with the help of the 3-color fire. You should put it away. At critical moments, you can use your spiritual power to activate its internal beast spirit and strike with the strength of the foundation building period. This, Bai Yan looked at Li Qingho with an inquiring gaze, and only then gladly accepted when he saw the other person nod. Thank you, senior uncle, for giving me the treasure. At this moment, Bai Yan saw that everything had been completed, so he left with a good expression and left the remaining time for the other 2. However, upon returning to the cave, Bai Yan found that someone was already waiting outside the cave. The opponent, dressed in white, is superior to snow, with a dignified appearance. Standing with a sword, he exudes a sword-like aura, exuding an extraordinary aura. He is the first emperor of the Qingfeng mountain lineage on the south bank, known as Shangguan Tianyu. Are you here? I've been waiting for a long time. Shangguan Tianyu's sword eyebrows entered his temples, and he lightly glanced at Bai Yan who had returned. He issued an invitation to fight and said, Shangguan Tianyu from Qingfeng mountain, please. After speaking, without waiting for Bai Yan's agreement, a sharp sword shadow stabbed in. Bai Yan chuckled and simply offered a wooden sword to block it. He was also full of curiosity about the rumored Tianjiao, who had the ability to reincarnate as the general sword cultivator. However, he was busy with tasks and didn't have time to visit. Unexpectedly, this person came directly to block the door. Bai has always wanted to see Shangguan Jr. brother's swordsmanship and teach him. The spiritual qi transformed flying leaf needle sword was densely suspended by Bai Yan's side, and was then urged to fly towards Shangguan Tianyu. The other party frowned slightly, spreading their own protective light. Your shield should be a natural talent, it's so strange that it actually blocks it. Bai Yan praised it, but stepped on his spiritual energy and quickly ran away, while Shangguan Tianyu's sword move hit in an instant. Qingfeng secret technique. Falling wild goose slash. Several intersecting and crisscrossing sword blades were shining, and for a moment, Bai Yan had the illusion of being surrounded by millions of sword rays, unable to find his way. He had no choice but to take this move forcefully. What a brilliant swordsmanship, Bai admires it, but this level can't beat me. Bai Yan raised his long sword, with a purple light shining in his eyes, and many blurry sword shadows appeared in his hand, turning into flowing light. Strangely, Bai Yan's figure also disappeared with the strong light. Entering the night with the wind, the sword falls silently, breaking. The criss-cross swords suddenly collapsed, while Bai Yan's figure had already advanced to Shangguan Tianyu. I underestimated you, how about this move? Shangguan Tianyu did not deliberately dodge, but stomped his feet heavily, stirring up chaotic spiritual energy around him, forming a vortex and revealing dozens of spiritual swords. Good guy, Bai Yan exclaimed. This guy is truly born with a sword body, and his ability to hide swords is top-notch. I'm afraid he's been waiting for him to get close. Bai Yan quickly retreated, pinching the formula in his hand, and the purple qi wielded the cauldron to the extreme, condensing a large cauldron to cover it. Purple qi hua ding. Suddenly, the sound of gold and stone echoed through the mountains and forests. However, before Bai Yan could catch his breath, the next wave of attack from the opponent had already arrived. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Bai Yan's Sword Intention. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Bai Yan's Sword Intention. Shangguan Tianyou's spirit sword came one after another, attacking like a storm, while he himself walked leisurely, standing 10 meters away from Bai Yan, looking at Bai Yan who was barely maintaining his defense with a hint of contempt in his eyes. As the only person in the sect who has the ability to comprehend the sword spirit, Bai Yan is exceptionally talented and stunning. He has been passed down by disciples of the sect as divine and even compared to him. Who is Shangguan Tianyou? He was born with a sword spirit, a future swordsmanship giant, and was rumored to be a reincarnation of an ancient great power, destined to be extraordinary and extraordinary. He came here today to see if Bai Yan had the same qualifications as him, but the result left him somewhat disappointed. It seems a bit exaggerated. Shangguan Tianyou raised his hand and grabbed a sword of the void spirit, his fierce expression suddenly appeared in his eyes. Let me solve you with one move. Qingfeng Mountain Secret Technique, Broken Rainbow. The spirit sword was swung out, with a fierce and shining sword, and in an instant, it struck the purple cauldron transformed by Bai Yan's spiritual power, cutting open like tofu. Bai Yan felt a sense of crisis surge in his heart, his pupils contracting, as if feeling a deadly chill. This guy is definitely a dangerous person, truly deserving of the high expectations of the sect's Tianjiao. Daring not to keep his hand, Bai Yan offered his wooden sword and his gaze became cold for the first time. The spiritual sea surged within him, and behind him appeared a phantom of a vast ocean, gradually becoming clearer. It is the third layer of sea transformation in the Dragon Elephant Sea Transformation Classic. In the past 3 years, Bai Yan has never slackened in his cultivation of martial arts, especially with the help of the system. He has comprehended the Dragon Elephant transformation into the Sea Classic several times. He has evolved it more than 10,000 times in the realm of emptiness and finally mastered this technique completely. It can be said that apart from the creators, no one knows the true meaning of Dragon Elephant transformation into the sea better than him. This method has evolved to the extreme, capable of crushing opponents with overwhelming power, and is somewhat similar to the first secret technique of the Lingxi sect, the Water's A Kingdom. Bai Yan erupted extremely quickly, and in the moment of breaking through the cauldron, he opened his sword and unleashed the power of the sea to roll up a huge wave. The momentum did not diminish and he charged towards the opponent. It has always been you who took the initiative, and I should also let you taste my strength. The sea was boundless, waves following waves. Although the sword light emitted by Shangguan Tianyou was strong, it could not stop Bai Yan's attack and was quickly engulfed by the waves. Shangguan Tianyou used the power of giant waves to fly into mid-air. Although he had not yet built a foundation, he could use external objects to briefly stop in the void. He admitted that he underestimated the other party. The strength of Bai Yan's move was so great that it was no less than the Ghost Knight walk in the hands of the proud Ghost Teeth on the first day of the North Bank. With his current strength, it was really difficult to handle. It seems that we can only use a killing move. Shangguan Tianyou's sword eyebrows stood upright, and his sword energy erupted. A soaring divine sword appeared behind him, which was exactly the sword intent he had been studying for many years. As soon as the sword was wielded, the wind and clouds suddenly changed around, and the atmosphere was diverse, with faint thunder and lightning visible in the sky. Many passing disciples followed the path, but dared not approach and make loud noises. They only looked at the two people on the battlefield in awe from a distance. It's too terrifying. Is this still the battle of the condensed chi cultivator? How could it feel even more terrifying than the action of the founding elder? It's all a perfect 10-layer condensation period. Why are we so far behind them? Said Chichiran, a newly appointed disciple of the inner sect, and several others beside him were also silent. The battle between the same generation of Tianjiao is the most eye-catching. This matter quickly spread throughout Shangyun Mountain, and nearly half of the disciples who participated in the battle for the construction of the Holy Land came to take a look. Even Li Qinho and Su Meixiang, who were secretly chatting in the Shangyun Mountain Hall, were attracted, standing on the mountaintop at this moment, gazing at the two warring figures in a complex manner. Shangguan Tianyu has a natural sword body, which is arrogant and disdainful of winding and bending its back. It walks on a magnificent road, and its sword spirit is unstoppable. He unleashed his strongest move so far, with his divine sword falling and his braving of thorns and waves unstoppable, his target pointing directly at Bai Yan in the center of the sea. Damn it, Shangguan Tianyu is so strong. I can't hold back any longer. The destruction of the sea has become inevitable, and when faced with something that cannot be done, Bai Yan decisively played his trump card. At that time, the sword intent surged into the sky, and another wave of sword intent appeared on the battlefield, with a level of intensity no less than that of Shangguan Tianyu. Bai Yan held a wooden sword with a golden light, and behind it appeared a giant python swallowing the sky, rushing up to the sky against the divine sword. White Yan's nephew is about to lose. Su Meixiang, standing beside Li Qinghe, said that in his later years of foundation construction, he still had a fighting vision. Bai Yan's sword intent was slightly weaker, not that his sword intent was weaker than Shangguan Tianyu, but rather that his sword intent attribute was weaker. Bai Yan's sword follows the path of light spirit, but compared to the majesty of Shangguan Tianyu's brilliant divine sword, it is ultimately weaker. Upon hearing this, Li Qinghe smiled slightly and said without hesitation, "I'm not a simple disciple. Just keep watching, maybe I'll scare you." The two swords collided in intent, and as expected, Bai Yan fell into a state of decline. His face immediately turned white, but upon closer inspection of his eyes, it was evident that he was extremely passionate and had a strong sense of war. "I won't play with you anymore, prepare to give up." Bai Yan let out a strange smile, and the sword's intent turned into a flowing light, suddenly dissipating. Along with it were Bai Yan's body. Shangguan Tianyu's expression was slightly stunned, and he was immediately shocked. The sword, which had lost its target, struck down and directly cut open a thin and 100-meter-long ravine on the ground. "Where is it?" Shangguan Tianyu looked around in confusion, carrying a stream of cold sweat on his back, and a huge sense of crisis spread to his heart. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice coming from behind and suddenly looked back. It was Bai Yan, whose face was even whiter, and his sword like python. "You're defeated." As soon as the words fell, Bai Yan's figure suddenly disappeared again. The sword followed the wind and fell silently. By the time Shangguan Tianyu realized it, there was already a sharp sword hanging in front of his forehead. The battle of swordsmen is won until the point is reached. Bai Yan has grown, Li Qinghe nodded with satisfaction and left with a smile. "Senior brother, wait for me." Su Meixiang quickly followed. Although the sparring between the disciples was over, their discourse had just begun. The disciples who were watching the battle suddenly became alarmed. The end of the battle was too fast, and they had not yet seen what sword move Bai Yan was using. Surprisingly, Shangguan Tianyu knelt down. Even teleportation didn't bring anything like this. Is it a secret technique for senior brother Bai to use in the end? Isn't this obvious? Undoubtedly, he is senior brother Bai. Even the first heavenly pride of Qingfeng Mountain is not a match. Senior brother Bai is really handsome. The result of this battle quickly spread to the 3 peaks on the south bank under the promotion of a group of disciples, and the name Bai Yan was once again mentioned. End of this chapter.